Culture change versus its business case. I actually discovered or developed this approach when observing customers that I was working with in something that was not related to this observation. I was doing management training, and it's actually two different companies who had a very similar situation. When you ask them what were the big changes, the big projects that they were occupied with apart from the daily business at the moment, they had a whole list. So they said, we have just developed a new strategy. So there was the strategy project, which is now coming towards an end, which means the strategy implementation project starts, actually a lot of projects. We also have a reorganization, so therefore the organization project is going on. We want to improve the ways we are, our management information system and KPIs, so we have a project around that, and so on and so on. So we had a lot of projects, and then we also have the culture project. And it turned out that this culture project was a project that was fairly independent of all the other projects, where they asked simply, what should be our values or guiding principles for our culture? What do you want to change? Is there anything about rules and regulations about how we work that we want to change? And the basic motivation or the basic question of this project was, what do we want to improve? What do we want to change? And I think the drawback of this is that you ask yourself, what's the sense? What is the actual meaning of changing this culture? What's the relevance of changing this culture? Because I think simply asking the question, what do we want, is not a good answer to that. And there are several reasons for that. One is that, what's the difference between changing the culture and improving the culture? It's that an improved culture is a culture that works better in the context that we are talking about, in the tasks and performance that we are required to deliver. And then another thing is also that culture is usually not changed in a very mechanical way, but it simply evolves because you do certain things in a different way. Another reason why I find this is difficult is, however, also that people don't really like having their culture changed. I remember this wonderful interview I had with Kurt Carlson, who was at the time the head of SRI, of Stanford Research International. And he said that this was a key learning that he had during his career, that when executives stand in front of people and say, we need to fix the culture, it's almost an insult. People say, who are you to want to change my culture? However, when you change it and when you take an approach and you start talking about achievement and you say, what do you want to achieve? And people were talking about their tasks and, maybe their career. And you then came and said, how can I help you achieve what you want to achieve? And offered things, other ways of working, other tools, other instruments, other approaches, then people were open to that. And as a consequence of that, the culture changed. So one of the important parts that I believe in also being called in to help people develop their culture is, let's get that word, culture change, out of the project as soon as possible. And let's talk about the business case for the culture change. So that we don't come up with more transparency and integrity, for example, because they are very nice and good values and we all want to embrace them. But we talk about more transparency and integrity because otherwise we lose credibility with our customers. And there is the business case, and there you have a relevance. Or maybe it's about speed and making less mistakes in your processes or whatever it is. That's where the business case is. And then as a consequence, you change the way you do things, and as a consequence, the culture will change by itself.